Hello and welcome to another episode of Between Two Red Chairs, where we get to know somebody on campus a little bit better. I'm the host, Jimmy Rue. Our guest today is Dr. Virginia Cylke, who's celebrating her 11th year at Lynchburg College. Thank you, Dr. Cylke, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us how you came to be affiliated with Lynchburg College.
I originally was teaching at Sweetbriar as a faculty adjunct for 2 years, sabbatical replacement, and all of my students were taking a class over here, my Sweetbriar students, and they said, they have a job, you should just apply. And I told them that is not how academia works. And I was wrong, because here I am. But so I applied on their recommendation and ended up here in a full-time tenure-track job.
That's great. And what is it that you do here at Lynchburg College?
I am a social psychologist by training, so I teach our sex and gender courses and courses about race and ethnicity and also research methods. So really exciting and really boring.
And you also teach in the gender studies
And I do teach in the gender studies program, the Intro to Gender Studies course, and also work on the committee to bring gender speakers to campus.
Very good. So what is it you like best about your job?
Everything. I really think that I'm one of the luckiest people ever, because I get to come to campus every day, interact with students that are engaged, and I get to teach topics that are very important and close to my heart. So there is really not a whole lot that I don't like about my job, and I consider myself pretty darn lucky every day.
What are some of those topics that are close to your heart?
Close to my heart. The big one, especially on our college campus, is sexual assault. And sexual education as a way to prevent. We constantly tell people what they shouldn't be doing and what they can't do. We kind of put that onus on women to protect themselves from getting raped instead of telling men to simply not rape people, which would be an interesting way to go about it. But in particular, I teach sex and gender, which really talks about having healthy, open conversations about sex and sexuality. Again, not turning it into a torrid conversation, but a little bit more of a, if we can talk about this openly and we can talk about what healthy consensual sex looks like, then we're going to have a healthy campus climate. Because if you're only having sex with people who enthusiastically say yes to you and want to have sex with you, so if we're only having sex with people who say yes, oh my gosh, right now, then no one's getting sexually assaulted and raped because everyone's having mutually consensual sexual activities.
That sounds like a very important mission.
It is.
What are some obstacles to you accomplishing this?
One of the biggest obstacles is, and I was going to say men on campus, but that sounds a little generalizable, but that men on campus and men in general tend not to see it as their issue. Dr. Savage and I did a lecture for the sororities and fraternities recently where the sorority women were mandated to be there. It was a mandatory event for them. And the fraternities were also invited to come and join them. And as it turns out, some of the fraternity presidents just didn't tell their men because they saw sexual assault in the title and decided it wasn't their issue. Some of the men were told and just kind of giggled about it and said, like, fun at that. And when you realize that it's actually, again, there was no man shaming, there was no man blaming, and they all said, oh, we didn't want to get blamed for things. So we need the campus to switch culture and realize that we're not saying you specifically or your group, but we are saying it's an everybody issue. Because statistically speaking, women aren't really sexually assaulting women as much as men are sexually assaulting women. And so if men continue on our campus to have that, it's not my issue, it's not my fault, I'm not that guy, and don't kind of circle up their people and say, you might not be that guy, but we need to step in when somebody is that guy, it's still going to create a pretty toxic environment for people.
So you haven't gotten to the mountaintop yet?
Not yet, we're climbing.
And so what's the next step to getting there?
Again, getting men on board and really letting them know that you can, and I think part of it is that we just don't talk about sex in our culture, right? And so college students are so much more comfortable having sex than talking about it. Like they don't even talk, like they must be having some boring sex because they're afraid to talk to even say like, I don't want to do this or I do want to do this or I like this, because a lot of them think they're being rude. And if they're going to continue to engage in this type of sexual activity, they need to be better prepared, and not just in terms of safe sex and things like that, that's kind of a given, but in terms of having healthy conversations about what they do and don't want with each other. Because it seems like being naked is one of the most intimate things you could do, and so it seems weird when people say like, well, I don't want to ask for consent because it would be awkward. Like, you are naked in front of somebody, you are about to mash your genitals together in certain ways, like at some point that conversation should flow easily.
So there's a reluctance to get verbal consent.
Yes, because they think it breaks the mood.
And to help with this, we...
And-
go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say, and anyone who says that it's awkward just has never had anyone tell them
Mhm.
how much they want them right there, right now, because that is unbelievably sexy. So they're just doing it wrong.
So to help with this awareness, you brought some speakers on campus.
We have brought some speakers on campus. Dr. Savage and I also speak of this, and we've actually spoken to the seniors at VES, at Virginia Episcopal School, as an initiation for them to come to college. And we brought in last week Reed Mihelko, who is a sex and relationship expert. He tends to be a little controversial, especially on our campus, because he has a lot of sex. And our role is, and our main goal was, who better to talk to kids about having sex than somebody who has a lot of sex and is very open about it and gets tested every 6 months and talks about it. He even posts his results on Facebook.
Wow.
And he said, you know, you don't have to model my behavior, but you should be that open about it. And you should be able to have that conversation. Students aren't even engaging in that conversation, the safety conversation, before they engage in activity a lot of time.
Wow.
And he also really pushes home the idea that everybody's no should be just as respected. And so a lot of times people have that assumption that somebody who has all the sex is just going to come and all of our students are going to be sex crazed maniacs, and that's not what happens.
Mhm.
With any other kind of education, algebra, geometry, history, you teach them and hope that they use it later to become lifelong learners. Same thing goes for sex education. If you're abstaining from sex until you're married, if you're currently not having sex, you can never have too much information about it, because when you want to use that information, you will pull from your knowledge base. And if you have no knowledge base, you have nothing to pull from.
Now, he was just on campus last week.
He was.
And last year as well.
And last year as well. He actually came twice last year.
Mhm.
And the first time we had over 600 people come to the ballroom gathering. And then the second time he was on campus, it was a smaller group of people, because he wasn't doing a large campus lecture. He was targeting certain groups. And this time we had about 300 show up for the lecture. And so that's impressive only because you say, oh, we had 600 last time. But when you think about it, it's in the same cycle. And so the fact that 300 people and lots of people came back
Mhm.
to see him, even if they had already heard his message.
His title was different last year than this year.
Yes,
For
his
this
title last year
presentation.
was How to Be a Gentleman and Still Get Laid.
Mhm.
And I actually don't know what his title was this year, but it was something similar. And I
Right.
think that turns some people off, the idea that, like, laid seems like a naughty word that you
Right.
shouldn't say. And it really is one of the only ways to get college students in the seats, is to be risque and be a little bit raunchy. Then they show up and the whole thing is about consent and good sex and having that elevator conversation, embracing the awkward and knowing that it could be awkward, and here's how you deal with an awkward situation to come to a verbal consent, and how a maybe is a no, like the only thing that is a yes is a mutually enthusiastic yes. I was going to say hell yes, and then I was going to censor myself, and then I decided not to.
Oh, that's okay.
So hell yes is the only thing you should be listening for. And if you're not getting that, you don't have sex with that person. And if that person can't find their words to say yes, and they really want to, they will eventually come circle back around and tell you yes. If you will not have sex with somebody unless they are 100% yes.
Very good. So, you talked about the reason maybe some of the men didn't come to listen was because of man shaming.
Yes.
So, what is that?
A lot of times men will say that they feel victimized by, or I don't want you to come and just be blamed for all the sexual assault because I'm not the one doing it. And what they don't realize is that they might, and they might not, I don't know them, but they probably aren't the one doing it, but their friends and brothers in their fraternities, somebody's doing it, or we wouldn't have all of these reports of sexual assault. And so if we could collectively decide that it's a campus issue and not a gendered issue, that sexual assault is everybody's issue.
Okay.
And one of the ways to combat sexual assault is to only have sex with people who want to have sex with you. And if we can teach them ways to navigate that. I mean, if you think about it this way, if you can navigate naked a sexual encounter, think about how much better you're going to be at navigating in the boardroom, in any other situation. If you can navigate the most awkward situation that exists, how much better will your communication skills be in all the other areas of your life?
Okay. Well, that seems very interesting, and that seems like a very worthy mission.
Thank you. And
So-
I am very pleased that President Guerin stands behind us 100%, which really makes it easier.
Yeah, sounds good. So we have a new thing we call rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
You ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay.
Do I just answer?
You just answer whatever comes to your mind.
Okay.
Okay. Untie your shoes or slip on and off.
Slip on. Clearly, no time for that.
What's a word that rhymes with test?
Rest.
What's your favorite toy as a kid?
Slinky or QXL or My Little Ponies or Strawberry Shortcake.
Single food you can never give up.
Bacon.
What person knows you best?
My husband.
Shower or bath?
Oh, shower. You shouldn't sit in your own filth.
What person would you never want to meet?
A serial killer.
Who's the first person you call when you have a bad day?
My husband.
What's the favorite age you have been so far?
40.
What's the last text message on your phone say?
It says I landed in Charlotte for my husband. He's on his way to Vegas.
Very good. Is there anything else you want to leave our audience with?
That was all of them?
That was all of them.
Man. Thank you for having me. And everyone should be having mutually safe, consensual sex. If they want to.
Right.
And
Well,
not if they don't want to.
Very good. It sounds like a very worthy mission. It seems like very important work.
It is very important to me. Once you have students in your office telling you about the actual climate on campus, you're pretty mortified. It's one of those things you can't unhear, and so you
Yes.
can't unsee it either when you see it on campus.
It's very important. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
That's another episode of Between Two Red Chairs, where we get to know somebody a little bit better. Hopefully we'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye for now.
Bye.